Today we try to copy the Brighton model of buying players for cheap and selling them on at a huge profit. And we're going to do this using the Moneyball approach, using data to find these players and sell them on for a whopping profit. Now the overall goal of this is to be successful and rise the team that I have chosen into a higher status where they start from. If we can get a trophy along the way, hell, that'd be a great bonus. Okay, so the chosen club we're going to go on this journey with is Hanover in the second Bundesliga. Now, there's a few reasons this club was chosen. I wanted to start in a division lower than the top division, and preferably with a club with a little bit of history. And as you can see, a couple of Bundesligas and a Pokal in their history, but it's been some time. Not to mention that outstanding stadium, 49,000. A small but compact squad to start us off, and finances in a stable, if unspectacular, starting position. So with the club chosen, the first season was all about establishing ourselves while the data builds up in the database so we can get some players in. Goals for the season? Top half finish would be lovely. They'd also brought quite a lot of players in during the summer, so I didn't want to bring anyone else in and give these players a chance at least till January. The squad was small and compact, but I like to work with a small and compact squad. It led me to slot in a pretty basic 4-3-3 for our first season, with wing backs attacking down the flanks, two central midfielders backing up the striker, with an inside forward, and an electric winger in Rabbi Matondo. He could be a key man. He's on loan from Rangers, and as you can see from his abilities, the quickness stands out. It's the great unknown in terms of judging my players, so I've got to do a combination of abilities, seeing if there's any standouts there, and relying on the coach reports of my staff to help guide me into choosing my first 11. So I built that 4-3-3 because that's the way the squad kind of lent. Going into the mid-season break, results were quite interesting. Interesting indeed, as we started a bit up and down, but we've gained a little bit of consistency now, and it's led to us sitting top of the league. It's very, very tight, but we are outperforming expectations big time. Don't get me wrong, we're a pretty fancied team in this division, 5th at 6-1, but to be top of the league at this stage is a massive bonus. And with half a season of football now played, I can start to judge what type of players I've got. It was clear I was blessed with a great wing back in Brooklyn, Eze, the left back. As his data charts show, he's performing outstanding for an attacking wingback. And as expected, Rabbi Matondo was providing a threat down the right-hand side with an outstanding amount of dribbles per match. It's also a key point in the season in terms of recruitment for next season. It's the 31st of December, which means contracts are starting to expire around the world. Which was another key point, because as soon as I was able to, I upped the scouting range to world to give me that massive database of players. To help me still further, I'm bringing in various scouts. Algerian Karim has great knowledge of African football, and I'm going to bring more in to try and make this recruitment team the best it can be. So with such a small squad, when I was looking to recruit, it was pretty much an open book, getting players in for all positions. And the initial clutch of signings covered that remit. We've got a load of players coming in at the end of the season, and these players cover a wide range in terms of where they're coming from. Goalkeeper Salmani is coming from Albanian football. Found a good centre-back in Shumi from the second division in Spain, and as you can see, he wins the ball back a load, doesn't lose it, and he wins a good ratio of headers. There was even players from Japanese football. This is fullback Ishihara. He's throwing in some pretty decent defensive performances. Also coming in from the Spanish lower leagues is Quella, who can play across any attacking midfield position or up front. And this season his goal ratio has been outstanding with 15 and 18. So we've got these players coming in early. There'll be more to come at the end of the season. Now speaking of the end of the season, we continued with solid, if unspectacular results all the way through. And with 2 games to go, we've beaten all expectations, including my own, by winning the title with 2 games to go, already clear by 10 points. Unspectacular but solid has been the theme of this season. We've scored 57, which isn't a great deal, but we've kept it tight, only conceding 25 goals. That's thrown a bit of a spanner in the works, with over half the squad out of contract and need to decide on quickly who's going to stay with the club. As the team performed better, as did some of the players start to stand out, such as Enzo Leopold, who's my creative midfielder, and Brooklyn Eze was the outstanding fullback in the league, with his value shooting up to nearly 7 million. Becoming more of a force throughout the season was Nicolo Trasoldi. Whether he played as a striker or attacking midfielder, he contributed huge with 8 goals. And only 20 years old with a top value that's only going to go up, he's one to watch. So at this point, I might have got myself in a bit of a pickle, because all these players you see coming in here that we signed mostly based on their first half performance of the season. There you can see Shumi, the centre-back, bought them thinking that we'd still be in this league, having to build the squad up. But now, I need to judge if they're going to be good enough for the step to the Bundesliga. There are 2 ways we're going to try and recruit these players. Using the data, definitely, but also relying on our scouts to bring up the scout reports so we can look at those players. Using this method has meant I've been able to start building a shortlist of players recommended to me, and these are players that I would not normally find, such as Marcello Alandi. We've got Karim to thank for this one. He's had a pretty good season as an attacking midfielder with great expected assists and a good goal contribution, and he's available for a pretty decent price, so he's one under consideration. And there are various players here, including players from the Ivory Coast and all over the world, because I was able to use this method to build an absolutely stonking shortlist to choose from, ready for next season. And judging by the season preview, it's going to be a long old season as well, as we are ranked 450 to 1 in our first season back in the Bundesliga. And as expected, I had to do a big turnaround of players, with a lot of players getting released who wouldn't be good enough for the Bundesliga, and some transfers out, and an absolute load of transfers in. But the key point, we only spent 1.1 million. Going into the new season, we're going to stick with the 4-3-3 that served us so well last season, but crucially I have managed to build myself a big squad for this demanding season. Now look, things didn't start great, with a bit of a thumping away at Mainz, and the standard defeat to FC Bayern, but we put up a hell of a fight. And that kind of summed up the first half of our season, as there was a lot of draws, but we weren't losing many matches. And currently, after 20 matches, we're sat in 7th. The 4-3-3 is holding up. We've only scored 23 times in those 20 games, but we have only conceded 19. And Trasoldi has taken the step up really well, playing as a pressing forward, scoring 9 times and giving me a good overall performance. Of the new players, Yuto Awazaki, signed from Japanese football, has been superb as an inside forward. He was a free transfer and he scored 11 in 20, and now his value has shot right up. New goalkeeper Lubomir Belko looks like a snip at 700,000. Signed on his scout report, which has transitioned over to his coach report, looks like a pretty good all-round goalkeeper. So 1.1 million spent in our first season in the Bundesliga, yet to cash in on any players, but if we can maintain solid in the Bundesliga this season, those player values are going to go up. The second half of the season was a bit more of a struggle, as teams probably worked us out a bit. We ended up finishing the season in 11th, but I would have took that at the start of the season, and we'd already started to make moves for next season based on a variety of things. Kareem, the African scout, might have done it again with Oswin Apolis. He's got some real key ability standouts, including flair, dribbling, vision and pace. I've also started to build the shortlist for next season. This is the season 3 shortlist. All these players here are going to be under consideration. Fernino as a striker is going to be available, could be a great pickup, as would Facundo Gonzalez, who looks like Juventus are going to release him. I've also got my recruitment focuses locked in. I expect some big results coming from here. This is Kareem's African section, and he's already identifying some good looking talent. So as the new season rolled into place, I didn't make many signings, but interestingly, our first big transfer out. Now this is a random one for me. Daniel Cueto came in for me for a free transfer at the start of last season. He didn't play a minute for us before Juventus spent 3.8 million on him. Perfect. Players coming in, I did manage to get the signing of Fernino in. He spent a couple of seasons in the second division in Spain scoring a bucket full of goals. Oswin Apolis came in on a free, he started fantastic and he's got a massive transfer value already. And we did manage to secure Facundo Gonzalez from Juventus. This season I'm going to explore a different tactic with Trasoldi and Nino both having a chance to play up front, but largely the squad is the same as last season. My first big outlay was 2 million on Justin Januzek. I'm hoping he can double that at least. It takes my overview to spend 4.2, sold 5 million. Lots of work to do. Our second season in the Bundesliga started with one of our best victories for a very long time as we beat Borussia Dortmund. 2 of the key new signings got the goals, Apolis with the first, and in the second half, Fernino bagged the second. Those 2 players had been key in what was turning into a really good season. At the halfway point I was sitting in 3rd. I'd lost a lot of matches, but I'd also won a lot as well. This had given me the confidence to start signing players for next season, knowing we were going to be a Bundesliga team. Milan van Uwijk's coming in from the Championship in England. Granted, his data isn't spectacular, however, there's 2 reasons I signed him. His value is currently at 9 million, bear in mind his contract's out in 6 months. And also his scout report was favourable, and this is a first for me as I've locked in a signing from the Syrian league in Mahmoud Al Aswad. Unfortunately, we lost our first player, Shumid left us for 1.2 million. But what a signing Fernino had been. Look at that performance for a striker. He's playing as a deep line forward. I'm pretty happy with Oswin Apolis as well. And it's great to see Brooklyn Eze managing the step up perfectly. And Facundo Gonzalez from Juventus, pretty solid stuff as a ball playing defender. It's pretty clear though he's not great in the air, he's more of a ball player, so I need a rough and tough centre back to join him. This is where we use a combination of scout recommendations and then looking at the player a bit more closely, either ruling them in or ruling them out. Second half of the season was similar to the year before, where we dropped off a little bit before coming back into it, but it was another solid finish in 9th place. We even got to the semis of the Pokal but blew it in a penalty shootout. Another thing I'd like to achieve with this approach is taking players that have kind of been bought from other clubs and discarded, who've still got a bit of life left in them, getting them in for a cheap fee. I was able to do this in the January transfer window with Riddle Baku, who signed for just 600,000. He was at Leipzig not getting a match, we signed him cheap, played him as an attacking right back and it was fantastic for us, and his value already shot up. Now we're into the close season, we've got signings already lined up coming from various places like the Championship, Ligue 1, even away back to Africa. But now, as a pretty established Bundesliga team, it's time to crank this up a bit. As we went into our third season in the Bundesliga, things started to happen on the transfers out front. We sold Boris Tomiak to Hamburg for 7.5 million, and the fullback we signed on a free, Ishihara, left us for 3.3. With add-ons that totalled 9.5 million, and we'd only spent 60,000 on players for us. So at this stage we've spent 4.9 million and recruited 15.5. It's hardly Brighton levels, but at least we've made a start. And this is the point of the save where we really crank things up. We're an established team now, with a little bit of money, now we can push it. And we were going to have to as Firmino left us in January. Damak of Saudi Arabia came in and gave us a £14 million profit from a player we signed for nothing. We also sold Quella back to Spanish football. Sometimes this data approach doesn't work every time. We've got to be realistic here. And it was time for us to break our record with the Firmino money, signing centre-back Belisian from Bayer Leverkusen. He cost me 3.9 million after barely getting a kick for Leverkusen. Signed on his coach report, which was all pros and hardly any cons. Halfway point of the season, we're once again looking solid. But we're going to miss the top scorer in the Bundesliga in Firmino. The signing of Van Uwijk had paid off big time. As we continued through the season with some positive results, including pushing FC Bayern to the absolute brink using our new box formation, another sale hit us as Facundo Gonzalez went to Bayer Leverkusen. They triggered his release clause for 6.5 million, but that's a whopping profit after only 50 matches for us. But let me introduce you to a player I spent 7 million on in Mateus Abaldo. He's already had a stunning impact playing as one of the attacking midfielders. Despite the mid-season squad reshaping, we managed to finish 7th in the league again, and with the finances on the way up, which has bled over to the transfer and wage budget, some of our biggest signings yet are on the way in. These players coming in are all about resale value. El Hadji Diouf comes from Slavia as a fullback, and possibly our most exciting signing yet is Zito Luvumbo. Playing for Cagliari, not only does he score goals at Serie B level, but he also did pretty well in Serie A for a struggling team. A free transfer signing, he could be a big profit maker. Also, with this box formation, it's vital we win that ball back in midfield. And that's why the signing of Gustavo Puerto could be a genius one on a free transfer because he wins the ball back. With the season coming to a close, now things are starting to shift. We've spent 15 million, but we've recruited 38.5. Now I'm massively confident that we won't get relegated. Our squad is strong enough. It was time to build things up, including the scouts, and get some more players in. To assist this, I got myself a South American scout in Gilberto. He recommended young Colombian forward Edwin Franco, and if you look at his abilities, it's not hard to see why. He'd scored 27 times in 50 matches for Nacional before I spent 1.6 million on him. Then Hanover really did start to feel like Brighton as we got raided by some bigger teams. After just one season, Milan Van Uwijk went to Borussia Dortmund for 10.5 million. 31 games, 10.5 million pound profit. And then after some hard bargaining, Day one at Enzo Leopold went to RB Leipzig for 20 million. Some other players that hadn't quite worked out left us for various fees, like 1 million for Cesar Palacios, who had signed on a free. Alejandro went to Stuttgart for 1.4. And overall I brought in 36 million in the summer transfer window. To replace them, I went for players that had been discarded by their other teams. Players that I'd never seen in FM before, such as Asta Franks. Wolfsburg weren't giving him a kick, so I picked him up for 1.7 based on his coach report, which told me he was going to be a good player. As a defensive midfielder, he started off superbly. A similar story for Auriel Amenda from Bayer Leverkusen. They signed him for 8 million, 25 games later, we pick him up for just 3 million. 6'6" centre back could be absolutely perfect for us. Overall, this transfer window we spent 6 million and bring in 36. Now this was the season where the box formation really came up trumps. We've got the right players for this right tactic. Zito Luvumbo has been insane. He scored 19 times in just 17 matches, and you won't see a better striker pie chart than that. He's up front with Colombian Edwin Franco, bagged 14 goals with 11 assists. Behind them you've got Albaldo. With that centre-back too that we picked up discarded by Bayer Leverkusen. Belisian's the ball player, as you can see there. And Amenda, he's all about defending. Put that all together and what's happened is a stunning first half of the season, including one Thomas Tuchel will want to forget. As my front boys ran riot on the counter-attack. Bayern just could not deal with this. As we smash in the greatest result in Hanover's history, surely. 6-0 away win at Bayern. It means we sit top of the table by a whopping 9 points. And it's not hard to see why, as all the players are excelling. In assists, in key passes, even crosses attempted. And as far as shots go, Zito is unhinged. At the halfway point of the season, we have the top 2 goal scorers in the league, 4 out of the 5 highest average ratings, 3 players tied for most assists. However, the second half of the season didn't match the first half of the season as we started to struggle a little bit. With only a couple of games to go, we still are top of the league as Bayern have their worst season in living memory, but we're just ahead of Leverkusen. Things were complicated as we lost Ridal Baku to Saudi in January. He went for 10.5 million, a whopping £9.5 million profit. I also made £5 million profit on reserve goalkeeper Bancoli. I signed him for 700,000, sold for 4.9. My new right back came from Dinamo and I spent big money at 9.25 million. I think it was worth it as his coach report was fantastic. This is Noah Mikic, and since he signed for us, he's been out of this world as a fullback. I'd also spent 6.5 million on Sergio Benitez. This was purely on his coach report and potential ability. He's just starting to break into the team and he wins tackles. And the final signing was Erwin Condessa, a young defender. Signed for just 400,000 from the lower leagues in Portugal. His performances already, although limited, have been really good, and the scouts came up trumps with this one, it looks like. His value is an absurd 41 to 51 million. In our very next match, we lost again, this time to Dortmund. We've got things going again in our last game away at Wolfsburg with Zito scoring twice. And that meant, unbelievably, with the lowest winning league total in Bundesliga history, we'd won the Bundesliga. We lost 7 matches in the second half of the season, but I did enough in the first half of the season to keep the league title by 3 points. Some of the signings had really paid off, such as Ranks in the central midfield as a ball winner, and the 2 centre-backs discarded by Leverkusen, out of this world. But striker Lavumbo, despite dropping off a bit in the second half of the season, scored us the goals. What we have now in this squad is a lot of sellable assets, but we've just won the league, do we really want to get rid of them? As it stands, we've spent 38.5 million, recouping 91 million. So I don't know how we were going to top that. I did not expect us to get near a title. It has a lot to do with the fact that Bayern fell off a cliff and with only 68 points to win a title. Have you ever seen a title won with such few points? Now, after that massive bonus, it was time to look at how we can reshape the squad. Winning the league meant there was a lot of interest in our players. In preparation for this, my scouts had came up trumps again. Konstantinos Karatas is at Genk, and that's his attacking midfield data for this season. Outrageous. The good news is he joins us on a free transfer. I've also bulked out the recruitment focuses. We've got one dedicated to South America, which keeps bringing up top talent to have a look at. Not forgetting to look around Europe, and especially ones that will be available for direct transfer. The shortlists are built up and ready. Eyeing up a move for John Melberg, who's at Salzburg. I'm just waiting to see if I can get that fee lowered a little bit. With that Bundesliga title, our overall balance at the club now is 122 million. That's not bad considering where we started. I'm obviously delighted with the squad, but we're going to have to bulk it up for next season with the Champions League in mind. One player of note is Christian Kufani, who I've had for many years now. I've sent him out on loan a few times and he's been doing the job, so it might be time to give him a chance. So at the start of the new season, with the Super Cup in the bag against Leipzig, no players had left. It was a surprisingly quiet summer, with us only bringing in 2 players, and we kept the momentum up through pre-season and into the start of the season. But then things screeched to a halt as Zito Lavumbo went to Barcelona. They triggered his release clause of 45 million, so after just 1 season, he leaves us. That meant Tresoldi gets back into the team. He's doing a good job, but he's not as prolific as Zito. And it affected us big time as the combination of losing Zito and the Champions League extra fixtures knocked us off. Halfway point of the season, we were struggling down in 8th. We're definitely not regaining the title. Bayern might though, probably because they sacked Tuchel and brought in the devil himself in Marco Rose. Tied up deals for the end of the season for Saber Kabalashvili, a left back, and Tahirovic for defensive midfield. And it looks like we should qualify for the Champions League next stage, so we're doing pretty well. We gave it a good effort in the Champions League, getting to the last 16 before going out on penalties to Tottenham. In the league, we recovered quite a bit, ended up finishing 6th, at least we're back into Europe next season. Coming in for next season is another Kareem special in Shihab Ben Salan. He's got an outstanding goal scoring record with 31 goals this season, and he's got some key ability standouts. I've also got a Youssef Arabi coming in on a permanent transfer for 16 million. That will be our biggest transfer yet. Signed initially on loan from Inter, I've seen enough, I want to make the move permanent. Now to some extent we're probably back where we should be. A top 6 team, that Bundesliga win was probably a bit of a freak result thanks to Bayern dropping off a cliff. Now we need to maintain ourselves as in that ballpark of best of the rest. So this was the first pre-season where we'd actually spent more than we brought in. It was triggered by yet another move to Barcelona as a left back. Juve left us for 22 million. It's a whopping profit though, so we signed him for 59,000. He spent 2 seasons here and off to the new camp he goes. The club's in a good financial state, which led me to spending more money. There was a £16 million move for Arabi on the permanent move from Inter. Scouts came in trumps for another player, Martin Croucher, a youngster from Australia, with loads of positive scout feedback. This kid was signed on a free transfer. As soon as I saw his ability ranges, I knew I had to sign him. So 6 seasons into our 7th season, things are progressing. Steady and nicely. A word on Karatsaz, signed on a free transfer last season. He's been outrageous this season already, scoring 5 in 4. His value shot up to 81 to 91 million. His debut season with us, he managed 13 goals in 33. Despite the big levers the last few seasons, we have managed to keep the core of the squad pretty much the same for the last 3 seasons. Another mixed bag of the first half of the season. It seems we might have found our level. At the midway point of the season, we're sat in 8th position, just a little below the top 4, and in the Europa League, we qualified, just missing out on top 8. But alas, there's another big transfer leaving us. And to be fair, it's another huge profit as Astor Vranks leaves us for Saudi. 2.5 seasons with us, 1.7 million in, sold for 24.5. But we foresaw this, and that's why we brought Taharovic in so he can jump straight in. We've also tied up some exciting signings coming in for next season. First up, a Kareem special from South Africa, Feko Mazoji. He'll be arriving on a free transfer from Supersport United as a 6'5" centre-back with great potential. From Arsenal, Ethan Nweri's going to come. He's on loan at the minute at Bundesliga side Stuttgart. He's playing predominantly as a striker, but I see him playing more in that attacking midfield slot. Free transfer, no-brainer. And coming from the Premier League is Matheus Franca, currently at Crystal Palace. They signed him in 23-24 for 19 million. He's been there a good few years, solid every season. He'll be joining us on a free transfer. We got all the way to the quarterfinals of the Europa League before succumbing to Napoli. A really good showing in the second leg, disappointed not to get through. We had a bit of a sticky end to the season, and in the league it's another 7th place finish. But Arabi at 16 million proved to be an absolute snip. Franco continues to be a great player and his value shot up to over 50 million. But there's definitely interest in Konstantinos, who had another great season, and I think FC Bayern are starting to sniff. On the transfer front, a new goalkeeper might be on the way from Japan in Takahiro Suzaki, who's playing for their national team. This season's totals were we sent out 50 million and we brought in 34.5, which meant the running total is 76 million spent, 197 million sold. The shortlist is built for the new season. There's even players like Diallo on that shortlist who's available pretty cheap, but I'm trying to stay away from well-known players. Instead, I've put my focus into building up my recruitment team, and it's now pretty much the best in the Bundesliga. I've got a good range of scouts now who can cover loads of different countries, and it's throwing up some interesting players, and when you get an A+ recommendation, you really need to look into them, such as Angulo from Real Madrid. He's obviously not getting a lot of game time, but he's someone I will monitor. So the Brighton model is all about buying players for cheap and selling them on at a massive profit. Think Caicedo, and this was the summer where it started to happen big time. So we tied up those players that I talked about, spending 2.1 million. On the way out though was 123 million pounds worth. Belushian, our centre-back, went to Saudi, bought for 3.9 million, he leaves for 21. I was disappointed to lose Albaldo, but a 14 million pound profit on him was decent, but the massive profit came from Konstantinos, who went to Bayern Munich, our rivals, for 81 million. They triggered his release clause, but what a profit. Thankfully I saw this coming and I've got 2 attacking midfielders to jump into that role straight away. It does also mean that young Portuguese defender Condesso, well, he can jump into that centre-back spot and make it his own. And that's what Brighton excel at. When they know someone's going to get sold, they've got someone ready to jump in, and that's what we've done there. The first half of the season looked like a return to our best form yet, as we absolutely blasted it. This included a victory against Bayern, and at the halfway point of the season, we are their biggest rivals for a league title. In the Conference League, we finished second in qualifying, but then things got a lot harder. As one of the players we signed in the summer, our boy Ethan, ends up at Bayern Munich. He only played 15 matches, it looked good, and then they paid 60 million for him. Also leaving us was a couple of squad players that we made big money on. With all this money burning a hole in our pockets, I had to make some transfers. My South American scout led me to Thomas Wallens, who, with all the pros here, had to be bought. He's already a fixture in defensive midfield and looks a great talent. Look at that abilities, and remember, excellent is yellow. Wow. Right back Jordan Borgia was signed for 2.6 million. Left back Daniel Malov was signed from Freiburg for 10 million. That is an outstanding start to his career with us. I've just signed Liam Jimenez, who was playing his football in Ligue 2. He looks outstanding technically. We'll see how he progresses. And from South America, we've just signed Attila da Silva. Comes from Flamengo, where he was starting to score some decent goals. Scouts and coaches love him. So after bringing in 201 million, we've spent 39 million, with the top signing coming in at 15 million. Not bad. This was the season where we did not fall away in the second half of the season. In fact, we'd even made it to the Europa Conference League final, having beaten Atalanta over 2 legs in the semi. Not only that, but the league went to the final game of the season. We had to beat Bayern, but unfortunately they had too much for us. They took down the league, but it was mighty close. But we've still got the UEFA Conference League final to look forward to. Unfortunately, it's against Aston Villa. The new signings looked good. Sasaki in goals looks like a world beater. I would say Thomas Wallens in midfield is the one to watch in terms of resale. He wins the ball back at a decent rate and progresses the ball nicely. Franca has been the ultimate free transfer signing with 22 goals and 15 assists. His pie chart is fantastic for an attacking midfielder. There's massive competition for the slot next to him. Jimenez has got it at the minute. The young Frenchman's on a good run of form, but he's been rotating with Croucher. But my strikers have been outrageous with Edwin Franco, Ben Salam, both of them two with 50 between them. But let's get to this cup final, shall we? Anyone that's followed the channel will know I was dreading this match against Villa. But to my surprise, we absolutely battered them, taking down the final with a thumping 3-0 win, which gave us our second major trophy since we took charge of Hanover. And things were starting to look more impressive in terms of the bank balance as well, with 120 million total brought in, but we've now sold 397 going into the next season. As we went into the new season, we cleaned the squad out a little bit, gaining us 27.5 million. I allowed Arabi to go for 20 million just because I've got so many good strikers. Players coming in was looking good though. Marius Dosso was a new goalkeeper backup. And I managed to get Habib Diarra in on a free transfer from Strasbourg. He'd excelled in Ligue 1, looking forward to having him. This was a season where a lot of our players were starting to mature into great talents. Check out this 7-0 win against Mönchengladbach. We were also a threat in the Champions League, beating Inter Milan and even away at PSG. We'd spent 12 million. By the end of January, we recouped 82. That's because Feko Majosi got sold for 20 million. He'd only played 24 matches. Right back Noah Mikic went for 35 million. But with the excellent Borja able to jump into right back, I wasn't too worried, so I didn't bring anybody else in. Not only were these boys making money by transfers, they were making it by performance as we got to the semi-finals of the Champions League. After losing 3-0 at the Bernabeu, we went oh so close to turn it around to get to the final by beating Real Madrid 4-2, but we went out 5-4 in aggregate. In the league, it was another good performance, but we just can't catch Bayern, who have got most of our better players now. Despite that, we are making this club some serious money while still performing on the pitch. We've brought in £133 million worth of players, but we've sold 495. I'm actually really happy with what we've done to the club. I think we've established them now as one of the better teams in the Bundesliga, doing it sensibly and still making money. Remember, the highest fee we've spent so far is 16 million on Youssef Arabi. I'm tempted to call it a day there, but we're going to have one more go to try and gazump Bayern Munich. So one last big push, and one thing's for sure, this tactic has been an absolute boomer. We've got a couple of players coming in this season. Do you remember Angulo, the guy from Real Madrid? Well, he's available on a free transfer, and despite limited minutes at Real Madrid, I can't turn this down. I'm also taking attacking midfielder Houssem Selmi. He's from Tunisian football, so another win for Karim. Speaking of Karim and the scouts, I've now got the best recruitment team in the Bundesliga. That's vital for the philosophy we've taken. Scout Gianluca Passotto and Gilberto both gave me glowing references on the following player. Joshua Navarro is a fullback from Chile, not hard to see why they wanted me to grab him. And for this final season, it was a quieter transfer window. We brought in 18.5 million, largely of squad players leaving us. I only spent 7.5 million. All of that was on Navarro. And we clicked into gear pretty much straight away. We're a really good team now. After 23 matches, it's us pushing Bayern Munich yet again, but it just got a hell of a lot harder as we've just sold our record transfer. Thomas Wallens has moved to Liverpool and they paid a mighty fee for him. Bought for 1.2 million. 2.5 seasons later, he goes to the Premier League for 119 million, which will rise. Now that's meant Angulo comes into the team and he's still a quality player. Disappointingly though, we have just been knocked out of the Champions League by Ajax, round of 16 this time. But my strikers continue to flourish. Attilio de Silva bought for 15 million, looking good. So being out of the Champions League meant we could focus on the Bundesliga, and it was a decided game here against FC Bayern. So Franco scores the vital goal as we beat Bayern 1-0. This means with just 3 games to go, there's a point in it. We're so close to overthrowing them yet again. That result was part of a great run in the second half of the season. But then out of nowhere, we lose to Freiburg. That could be absolutely vital. We respond well with our best performance of the season, beating Union Berlin 5-1. We just trounced them. Problem was, it was too little too late as Bayern kept winning and they take down the title again. But we do have a chance for redemption because we've got to our first Pokal final and it is against FC Bayern. Before we go into that final, I thought we'd have a little look at the final statistics. So we spent 141 million in total transforming this Hanover team into the best of the rest in the Bundesliga, and we brought in a whopping 631 million. And the most we spent was just 16 million on Youssef Arabi. So really proud of what we've managed to do there. If you get the right scouting team like we've got, use the data, use the scout reports together, and have a little focus on players that have been bought by big clubs and just not used, you can build up a hell of a squad. Right, Pokal final by Munich. So it's against our new arch rivals in the final, and after 24 minutes, we fell behind. However, it's the 92nd minute of injury time right now. Cross comes in, Condessa, the young Portuguese defender, he made it 1-1 and that took us to a penalty shootout. Now granted, we haven't had the best record in penalty shootouts during this save, but now we've got a goalkeeper, the Japanese number 1 Sasaki, who's a bit of a demon, as he saved time and time again from Bayern superstars. And then when Ben Salem scored this one, it meant we'd done it and we'd got the Pokal. A fitting ending to the save. 10 long seasons where we built the club up slowly, made ourselves the best of the rest in Germany. I mean, we leave Hanover as one of the richest clubs in the world, thanks to that £490 million transfer profit.